everybody. We are right now in Railroad Pass Casino, and this is right between Henderson and Boulder City. I'm just coming back from Needles, Laughlin, Bullhead City. A lot of cool things to see. Some things were not too great, but I'll tell you a little bit about my experience in Laughlin a little later. First, I got to tell you, wow. It is raining pretty good, a lot more rain than I thought, especially for a November. But I wanted to take this time to really talk about the recent event that just happened with the Las Vegas situation. We had a bunch of 15 thugs, I believe they were all black, 15 teens that beat up a black kid, out in, excuse me, okay, we got to back up. All right, I think we went the wrong way a little bit. Whoopsie daisy. Oopsie. I think the other way was, hold on just a sec. My apologies. It's just raining so hard, you can't even see where to go. I mean, it's unbelievable. Hold on, let's just get out of here and let's just go. Here, exit. See, that's the issue with a lot of these medians is that you don't even know where to go or what to do. But apparently he was very patient. I think he probably knew that I was having some issues with the driving and what have you. Anyway, it's just another encore, really, of what happened with the two teens that killed a retired police officer. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And now we wonder why a lot of people prefer racial separation. Now, do I think that we need to mandate segregation? No, not necessarily. But again, this is why, and I keep telling a lot of people that despite efforts of quotas and integration and everything, despite the efforts of diversity, despite the efforts of telling people that race is a social construct and what have you, the fact of the matter is, holy crap, it's really dangerous driving in these routes in this rain. Despite all these efforts, people will never learn. They have to learn it through the hard way. And what do we see as a result? We see more of these instances. But at least the good news is people are starting to learn the reality of race, of what it is, and why, at least for a lot of people, they're better off being with their own kind. Because what happens is you get conflict, you get dissatisfaction, you get safety concerns. Now, you can argue that a lot of those teen punks who beat up that kid were people who obviously were fatherless homes, and certainly that does have an impact. But I just had a call with Sam Dixon. As you know, Sam Dixon I've interviewed in my channel about a couple of times. I look to interview him again. He's a well-known white advocate, white civil rights. He's speaking in every single conference for American Renaissance. A really good guy based on the Atlanta area, a lawyer. And he says that, well, there's going to have to be more instances. There's going to have to be more criminal elements to the point that we're finally going to have to wake up along with this massive open borders, massive immigration, that it's going to get to the point that people are finally going to learn the realities of race. And that's what it's going to have to take, folks, unfortunately. So the fact is that if you are with a large number of blacks, and I know this is very politically correct, the likelihood that you're likely going to get beaten up, something's going to happen to you, is going to go up, especially if you're a white person. Now, can it happen to a Persian like myself? Absolutely. These people are especially vicious and violent. They can be at a higher rate. not just among other races, but among themselves. Now, is it possible to still get along with people of that race or races that are not under your own? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. It certainly is possible. But the point I'm trying to make, though, is that there is a probability factor. Now, the question is, why did these white kids hang around in areas that are, not like themselves, especially around blacks? See, maybe it's because they didn't know. Maybe they didn't realize the reality of race for what it is. And if you don't know, well, chances are you're likely going to get these outcomes. It's as simple as that, folks. I'm not denying that. I mean, how is this going to play on? How are we going to keep this thing going, ladies and gentlemen? And because that they don't know, because you have all this CRT happening, you can argue with that. And there's a lot of arguments that you can say that, yes, CRT is harmful, it's anti-white, but it could help us in the long term. At least that's what Sam Dixon tells me. And as a result, it spews a lot of hatred, anxiety, anger, and what have you. And what do you have as a result? Well, a lot of non-whites are expressing a lot of disgust and hatred towards white people. It's as simple as that, folks. And when are finally going to people learn? And this is just not that. It's just that how many crimes have non-whites, especially blacks, have done against white people? This is sad. Now, it can, yes, of course, whites can be a suspect and blacks can be a victim, but we know what we just saw and how the teen just died. My condolences to him and the family. That happens at a lot higher rate. I mean, when are people finally going to learn? When are people going to finally wake up and smell the coffee and see what's exactly going on? Okay? Unbelievable, folks. And of course, we know that the media is going to continue to take sides. It's going to have double standards. The media is going to continue to believe that, well, it was obviously not a big deal. It's just a normal crime incident. But obviously, if the roles were reversed, and we don't just have race biases, we also have male and female biases, just to think about that, it would have been national news. It would have been frontline news. And of course, they create a lot of hoaxes like Jesse Smollett and everything else. But we know that's not true because a lot of white people know if they were to do something with a black person, their reputations and their lifestyles are going to be destroyed. And by the way, it can happen not just among white people, but we know blacks are obviously favored more against Persians and perhaps Asians and so forth. Because that's the society we live in. It's double standard. It's double culture. But the heart of this issue is I want to just get to the point because I'm driving down Henderson right now, and we don't have a lot of blacks to live, especially in this part of the area. Especially they call this area Hendertucky. And this is the thing I wanted to point out because the Las Vegas area is not very racially segregated as a lot of parts of the country in terms of metro area. And this is why, the more mix that we do, the more of these conflicts, the more of these issues are going to arise. And a lot of people say, well, we built freeways, we did all these policies with redlining to separate the races. But now you see why they try to separate the races. Because, well, you can say, well, there's diversity and inclusion, but unfortunately, the taboo truth is we try to mix in, and you can argue Section 8 and the transit systems has been done to really integrate a lot of things. But what happens as a result is that, we get a lot of these conflicts, and it doesn't work. We get a lot of these safety concerns. Think about it. And you could see the strip really far ahead. It's like with all this rain and showers and everything. Oh my gosh. But it's just absolutely saddening to see, ladies and gentlemen. And now that I have mentioned that, and I wanted to tell you my Laughlin experience. Now, I just drove over Bullhead City. You know, it kind of has that small town feel. Neal surprisingly had a good number of historical buildings, probably even more than Las Vegas, shockingly. And I think, they were able to do that because the river was so close. But Needles was really run down, and gas was like $7 a gallon. It was unbelievable. So I filled up in, what's it called, in Bullhead City. I paid about $3 a gallon. That's like less than half the cost of Needles, believe it or not. Now I'm going on the 215 West. And I have to tell you, Bullhead City certainly had a lot more traffic than I thought. And in addition to the fact that Laughlin had a good number of traffic. Go in the casinos, like, it wasn't super busy. There wasn't a lot of congestion, hustle and bustle, but it wasn't dead. I mean, there was a good number of people in the slot machines, tables. I had to go to Laughlin, considering the fact that Don Laughlin just passed away. But here's what I did like about it. Even though it didn't have the luxury, high-end feel, the prices and deals were certainly much better. There's no question about it. I was able to get a meatloaf special at the Don Laughlin's Riverside Resort. And as you know, at the hotel, you can see that the deals were pretty good. The service was pretty good. Even though, surprisingly, my family came to visit there about 25 years ago, they weren't a fan of it. But you got to understand that Laughlin, even though some people can say the prime was like in the mid 90s, early 2000s, it hasn't gone downhill in so many ways compared to Las Vegas. Well, Las Vegas has gone downhill a lot. The pricing, the services, the drama, the ghetto crowds. Now, yeah, you can argue that in downtown still has plenty of good deals. There's just no question about it. I mean, I've thought about booking a hotel at the Golden Nugget just for the heck of it. But nevertheless, I got to tell you this, folks. Laughlin, I think it survived largely because it's not as nickel and diming as Las Vegas. And, yes, there is the country crowd. There's the biker crowd, the RVs, a lot of hicks, rednecks, whatever you want to call them. And, of course, I'm not too comfortable around those people as a Persian guy, fully. I mean, I like them, but they're not my best cup of tea. But nevertheless, I got to tell you one thing I really did like about Laughlin. It wasn't infested with immigrants. It wasn't infested with people from Asia. There wasn't that many blacks. There were some Latinos, and of course there's some Amerindians, there's Indian reservations. But nevertheless, in terms of racial demographics, there was a sizable difference compared to Las Vegas. Now the question is why? A lot of people don't know a lot about Laughlin. I think there's a lot of isolation. I think it probably has a lot to do with the unions, and that encourages a lot of immigration to come here. Wow, the rain is still coming here in Las Vegas. Unbelievable. Well, we're still in Henderson, but, there's a lot of things I did like about Laughlin. And I was telling about these situations with Sam Dixon. Absolutely. Because one of the things is that when you get this racial diverse crowd, well, a lot of whites tend to flee. And you can see that Henderson is kind of a white flight destination. You'll have some neighborhoods that are at least 80% white, maybe at least 60%. But you pretty much get the idea, folks. You got to really understand what's going on. It was a cool experience, and I think I will definitely visit there again. A lot of entertainment, a lot to see. But I really was hoping to see Don Laughlin. And if I saw him, by the way, I was going to tell him, well, hey, you know what? Maybe we should break up the county. Absolutely. And speaking of the county, that has to be done by the legislature. I believe a lot of things are beginning to shake up. Oh, before I get to that, I want to talk about the F1 situation. And regarding the F1 race, oh my gosh. First of all, the attendance is not as good as they thought. The room rates are coming down. From what I've heard, they use a lot of taxpayer money to pump this thing. Unbelievable. It's just like, well, when you do all this, is there going to be accountability? Because you see how they push the lockdowns, the mandates, the jabs, and everything. We're still suffering the consequences. Let's not forget about that. You know, they're doing a lot of things to distract us. But nevertheless, you also got to understand that is there going to be accountability? Because you have the casino executives, the Clark County commissioners, and another person I want to talk about is the chair of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. I think his name is what? I can't remember his name. Something Hill. I can't remember, but he's the chair, and he pushed the stadium plan. I'm going to do a video about him later on. But oh God, I don't even trust him, and he doesn't seem to like me either. My goodness. So as a result, you got to really understand that when are we going to hold these people accountable? Is it going to take an economic disaster for people to really see the true colors and understand that we've been conned, that things are so messed up, that we really, really need to just have some accountability, throw some people out? Unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable. I got to tell you, I don't trust these guys. We need to expose these people. You need to go to these meetings. I think his name is Steve Hale or something. I'm not sure. But if you guys can look that up, that would be great. I'm telling you, I'm not a lot of these people in charge of this area, they're not a fan of me. So right now we're approaching Eastern Avenue. We're on the 215. Somehow these center lights are not working, so who knows what's really going on. Wow. And speaking of the Nevada legislature, I got to tell you this. Oh, by the way, there's Ed Bernstein's billboard. I saw him several weeks ago. We talked about immigration. I think I've told you this before, but 3 members at least of the Nevada legislature, they're not running for re-election. Apparently, now, I don't really trust this newspaper, but they do some good work. The Review Journal, they've exposed a lot of scandals and money laundering or taxpayer funds going to a lot of these private organizations. Okay, so it seems like the rain is starting to die down. Unbelievable. As a result, a lot of things are shaking up. It looks like I think we're going to get a new legislature, a lot of change that's going to happen. Look, you can see the Las Vegas Strip on the background. Looks like it's going to be very busy. The lights on the Fontainebleau is shining up right now. A lot of change is going to happen. And there's a lot of articles that's pointing on, and I can show you how the Nevada has been shifting a lot to the right. And the polls have shown it, because one poll that's come out, I think from the New York Times, talking about the fact Donald Trump is ahead from Joe Biden about 11 points. Now, do I think he's going to win by 11 points? I mean, unless if we see changes to the way elections are done, there's a pretty good chance. Now, however, do I think he still has a good chance of winning? Absolutely, because the polls are doing better in Nevada than they were doing approximately 4 years ago and 8 years ago and what have you. We'll have to see how this turns out. I mean, I think he can win by a sizable margin by 3-4 points. We all know that this dumb crap Culinary Union and many other of these NGOs, they're not going to support Trump. In fact, they're not going to even support Kennedy or another third-party candidate. Think about that. So that's exactly why he's not so ahead in the polls. But 10 points, 11 points, that is a lot. And do I think he has a good chance of winning? Absolutely. Now, why do I think that we're seeing a shift to the right? Because we flipped many seats, including the governorship. Although there's certain things I'm not happy with Joe Lombardo. This message is held for review. Oh my gosh, I'm just sick and tired of the censoring that's happening on Facebook. But let's just keep on cruising. Sunset Road, Harry Reid Airport. Yeah, see, that name they just did. We're looking at the strip right now. I think what really shaked up Nevada was COVID. People lost their jobs. They couldn't pay their bills. They couldn't get their unemployment. They were pushed to jabs. People are seeing the long-term effects of the jab and what have you. They know that this so-called recovery was a lie. They're feeling the pinch of the inflation. Nevada's inflation rate was above the national average, even though we're seeing rent starting to come back down. $800 rent starting to come back. But I've got to tell you this, folks. It's very much concerning. Yeah, and is it real? I wouldn't be surprised if it's really fake because it was just pushed by a PCR test. But as far as this is concerned, folks, people are seeing the long-term effects. They're seeing their loved ones getting sick from the you-know-what shots. And I think that's what's really causing the polls that we're seeing right now. It's unbelievable, folks. You got to understand, it takes a while for people to really wake up, see the true colors, wake up, experience it, then, of course, wake up to the reality and really see what's going on. But after all that's going on with those 15 black teens, those thugs, those animals, and I don't care if YouTube takes down this video, screw them. Unbelievable. Come on. We have to call these people out. And I'll show you the video later on what these you-know-what try to do to me in the school board meeting. Yeah. When are you guys going to wake up? We're going to have to realize the real economic situation. The fact that the higher interest rates is hurting the economy. Well, it's going to provide some benefits in the long term. It's going to wake up our lesson. But we know that we've been overdosed by the low interest rates. And now that the interest rates are going up, there's a lot of downward pressure on homes. We're seeing more homes into the market. So that's debunking the myth that, oh, yeah, these people are not going to sell because if they lose their job, if they can't make other payments, if we see a lot of people put their homes on rent, if the investors start selling, we're going to see this real estate market begin to implode. And we're going to see the reality of what's going on. We didn't learn our lesson from the crisis 10 to 15 years ago. That's the sad reality. But we need all this pain to wake up and realize that these politicians, the mass media, corporate America, well, actually the globalist system, lie to us. And this fractional reserve banking system, this Wall Street speculation, Federal Reserve, has failed the public. Unbelievable. And yet we renamed an airport after a criminal bastard who didn't fix the problem, along with politicians from both parties. It's a really sad situation, folks. Unbelievable. But we're going to have to really realize that a good chunk of us want to separate. We want to have our own neighborhoods or regions and what have you. I'm seeing a lot of police cars all of a sudden. What's going on? Are we having a crime wave or something? Unbelievable. See, and you know the taboo truth is that a lot of blacks wouldn't even be living here in Las Vegas if it weren't for these outrageously high costs. Oh, it's a state trooper, actually. The high cost of living of California. That's a sad reality, along with other non-whites. That's what you guys have to learn, folks. Unbelievable. So we're on Sunset right now. Now, before I get to the last topic, we've got some good news, at least for some people. The stock market's recovering, okay? And we're getting to the point where all the major indices, Dow Jones, S&P, and hopefully, especially the NASDAQ composite. Oh, there's another state trooper vehicle that we are beginning to hit near all-time highs. And I think it's because the tech companies are recovering. A lot of people are saying, okay, we're having a slowdown in the stock market. We're seeing unemployment slightly going up. Look, it takes a major economic shock. Then the earnings would have to really struggle for the stock market to come down. What we saw last year, especially, is where the tech companies got overheated because of COVID. And now we're seeing as a result is where the tech sector is beginning to recover. We're seeing increasing fiscal flows because that matters because more government spending will add more dollars to the economy. That's a fact. The earnings looks like they're pretty decent. The stock market is beginning to recover. Not to mention we're seeing that the inflation is starting to tone down and the higher interest rate period is starting to end. Now, just because the interest rates are high doesn't mean it's necessarily bad for the stock market. When they were raising the interest rates, yeah, that hurt especially the NASDAQ. We saw that, but now that period is starting to die down because the inflation rate is coming down. Now, do I think necessarily that the rising interest rates is what brought the inflation rate? Not necessarily. It's because the eviction moratoriums are gone, because the supply chain issues have died down. The high costs are still hurting the American people. It can still hurt the economy. There's no question about it. But where are we looking forward to the stock market? Now, I do believe the stock market's going to continue to rally into mid 2024. Now, is it possible that they can do this towards the election to make it look good? Absolutely. Anything is possible. But nevertheless, if we see these bad earnings and the economy begins to slow down and what have you, it's likely we're going to see. Hold on just a sec. Hopefully, these people will be giving me some room because I'm sick of these construction all across Las Vegas. It's pissing me off and it's creating a safety hazard. Unbelievable. Oh, wow, they're cutting more lanes. Can you believe this? This is absolutely ridiculous. I see the bull market going on until mid 2024. I would just buy carefully, see how this turns out. But as far as I know, look, we haven't had a real major stock market correction. I mean, like 40% or more in about 10, 15 years now. And I think we are certainly long overdue. However, it's hard to, I mean, I know we haven't fixed the financial system, and I know real estate's overheated, but again, it's not easy to see that we will have a bear market from 2007 to 2012 ever again, okay? Or some people say the bear market went from 2007 to 2009. And it's hard to tell when the tops and the bottoms to begin. But we do know if it goes up a lot and the PE ratio is very high, that's when you want to get out. Okay, and when you see signs of an economic slowdown. But when the PE ratios are very low and you see signs of an economic recovery, that's when you want to get back into the stock market. We all know the NASDAQ is more volatile. But we see that the bond markets, well, treasuries have gone up, and it's really shaking up the bond market. We can see Bitcoin is starting to recover. I think that the US dollar is, I mean, yeah, it's done better than many other currencies, but it's not becoming like the ultimate true safe haven. We're seeing a lot of money going into cryptos and as well as the stock market. And looks like the conflict that's happening overseas has not really hurt the stock market. So that's one of the things you've really got to keep in mind. Unbelievable. So it looks like there's still some rain. Rain has kind of toned down. I knew the rain was going to really taper down here in this part of the valley. We're on Decatur Boulevard. Unbelievable. Yeah, so that's just my forecast. And as far as commodities go along, I haven't been bullish on commodities, particularly oil. I think oil is going to just keep going down to the 70s range, but we'll have to see how the Middle East conflict will continue. As far as gold, I don't see it skyrocketing like all these gold pumpers claim it to be. Do I think that there's some moves higher? I'm not surprised. Wow, this is really disgusting part of the area. And this area is managed by Clark County. I noticed there's like some homeless camps out here. It's really sick and nasty. And yet we have these county commissioners that, it's even on video where they kind of just like use cuss words even in the middle of the meeting. Like they're just tired of hearing the opinions of other people. Unbelievable. Yeah. All right, I'm going to end this video very, very soon. Yeah, it looks like it rained quite a bit out here, so now it's kind of just toning down. Alrighty. Oh man, Nigg. Oh yeah. I love it. I love it. Yes. Nier. I can't stand them. I'm really getting tired of them, really. I'm really getting tired of the animals. I really am. I mean, I just want to know how come you Europeans did not do something about this sooner? You really should have done something about it, man. Done a return. I mean, George Lincoln Rockwell talked about reservations. Hey, do that again, please. Please spell it out again. That would be great. Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to look back and see right on the comments. Yeah, I know some of you are not happy with Donald Trump, and I know there's a lot of you out there, and I still feel it in my own bones that he's like part of the system. Again, I'm not surprised, but then again, we did see some change in trade and immigration. You can't deny that, unfortunately. Have I seen a lot of blacks? It really depends on where you at, honestly. It's funny because it's like at the school board meeting, there's a high school in the Summerlin area, and they're like, yeah, blacks are only 6% of the students, but yet they're like 40% of the suspensions. Like, yeah, first of all, because they commit higher levels of offenses, but also the fact that a lot of people live in Summerlin and Henderson to get away from the blacks. That's just the reality of it, okay? So when people go to those areas, they go to those public schools, and they have to pay a premium. That's the thing. We're paying for these costs indirectly, or they have to go to private school, or they have to homeschool them, and this is where we want education savings accounts, because what it really means is we're trying to separate from the non-whites. Well, you see, that's why we're going there. Absolutely. So as far as if I'm seeing a lot of blacks, just not that many. It really depends on where you're at. It also depends on because I know on the west side of Las Vegas see a lot of East African blacks, and they're obviously different than the blacks that are obviously who have roots from West Africa, who were brought here as slaves. Of course, we Persians had slaves from East Africa as well as the Arabs too, and they have similar levels of performance. So let me read some of the comments. What's the reason about the beating that they did to that kid? Yeah, that I don't know, man. It's just they just did it because again, it's just simply because obviously, well, he's just not one of them, and they just don't want to admit that. You know, it's the sad reality. Review show. Yeah, I can't, Patrick. I can't see your message for some reason. It's not letting me do that. But I think I know what you're gonna say. All right. Any other comments before I go? I'm gonna head out in about the next 30 seconds. If you guys want to make some other comments, what do you guys have to say? Yeah, when you spell the N word, it's so cool, man. I mean, they're just entertaining when you think about it, really. But I just can't stand when their men are dating the white women. It just pisses me off. It's like, why would they do that, man? I just don't know. It's all this propaganda. It's funny because last time I was in Glendale, I saw a lot of Armenian women with black guys. I think that's really the Kardashian effect. I don't think they were Persian women because some people have told me that. Unbelievable. It's like what Sam Dixon says women do based on what their environment, their conditions are really at. Yeah. Unbelievable. All right, everybody. I got to get going. I'll talk to you soon. I'll upload that video very, very soon. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you.